So, as we watch that video, I know for some people that video is like creepy, but as we watch that video, for me, what it says is something about where we are today. And where we are today is at the beginning of that video. We're so divided. We are so divided. And we think we're more connected, which is the twisted part. We think because we have, is this going to be, August is National Pick on Smartphone Day, or month. But it's not really. But we think we're connected because of this. And I'm going to argue today that we are so divided, at least partially because of that, because of so many other things. We, the people in America, have come to this place where we revel in our division. We actually enjoy being weird and different than everybody else and having some special thing that we know and understand better than anybody else does. We want to be the one who knows more about whether or not you should wear a mask, or whether or not a mask is effective, or this kind of mask is better than that kind of mask, and you don't need one. It's so awful. We just spent a week in Wisconsin up there fishing, and we went to a racetrack to watch. We enjoy short track racing. Anybody else in here like short track racing? To me, I can see the whole track, which is easier for my small mind to keep track of. And there's only like 12 laps, and so by the time we're done, I still remember who started. And I get a kick out of it. But when we go in, nobody's wearing a mask in the whole place. And it's all these people sitting crowded together, right? But we all know whether this is a good idea or not a good idea. And I'm not here to tell you whether it is or not. My point is, if you want to get a fight started in a family group, you can probably say, this is a good idea or not a good idea. We all know whether or not that you should take vaccines or not. And we've all got this and that and the other. We all know whether or not this politician is a cheater and a crook, and whether this politician is better or worse, and whether this politician did this nasty thing and that politician did this nasty thing. And we love being the one that is right. We dive deep into conspiracy theories to figure out whether or not somebody was actually ordering pizza or whether they were actually causing some nefarious, awful thing to go on in their lives. We spend days and days on it. We go to all lengths to prove that we're right. How many of you have spent more time in the last month looking into the proper kind of mask and whether or not you should wear a mask than you spent looking into the Word of God? And I want you to be honest with yourself about it. How many of you spent as much time in this book trying to figure out whether or not you were in the will of God? How many of you spent as much time doing that as you spent trying to figure out whether or not President Trump was a liar or Joe Biden had his head together? I'm here to tell you, if you spent time watching the news, watch the local news and the national news, that you spent more time on that than you spent in this book this week. Oh, great, I get a guilt trip today. No, that's not my point. That's not my point. And that's not where I'm driving. And that's not where I'm not saying watching the news is bad or any of that. What I'm driving at is this. We've reached a point as a people where we're more concerned with being right than we are concerned with being together and connected to one another. We're more concerned with being the one who knows more than we are concerned with being the one who loves more and cares about someone more. That's completely outside of what we give a care about anymore, is knowing that peace. There's a catch this, I want this title, an organizational anthropologist. that works for the Harvard Business Review who says that we're addicted to being right. We've reached that point where we're addicted to being right. She says your brain is hooked on it like a drug. So she plays it out like this. She says, you sit down in a business meeting and you have come to the business meeting with your PowerPoint presentation and your research that you have together, and you start down through making your point. And as you start down through making your point, Chuck's at the other end of the table goes, yeah, well, I understand what you're saying, but I noticed that you're wrong about this and this. She says, you can physically feel inside of yourself being attacked by what's being said. And so you defend it. And then they come back with their piece of it. And so you defend it. And you get louder than they are. Imagine that, me getting louder. You get louder than they do. And you insist on your point. And you drive in. And you go further. And you work everything you can to defend your point. And she says, this is a base part of who we are. It's how our brain works. What starts happening is there starts to be releases of hormones in our brain that go all the way back to the most base piece of who we are. If you're really interested, it's called the lizard brain. And there's some little piece of you inside that goes to instinct to fight what's going on. You're being fed by your brain to do these things. You kick into overdrive and your brain is hijacked. You're being fed for these things. She explains there are three things that happen to us. And as far as what's happening to us today, she said, but I'm not a caveman, but you have caveman tendencies. You have these base tendencies that are a part of who you are to do one of four things when you're attacked. You'll either fight or flight or freeze or appease. So, freeze is the one that's fun to me. It's like somebody's got you in their crosshairs and they, hey, you're wrong, Greg. It's just the way it is. Big Ten football shouldn't be being played. And you go, wait, that's just completely outside of what's possible for me. This makes no sense. So I freeze. I'm stuck. I don't know what to say. Appease is, I think of a puppy rolling over on its back saying, rub my belly. Love me. This is appeasing someone. So we're going to do one of those four things, but the one that feeds us is to fight. Our brain says, go, get them, do it. Take them down. Well, I'm not fighting people, but you are. None of what I'm about to say is my actual opinion. I'm saying it to incite an emotional response. Are you ready? Get your feet set. Joe Biden is mentally incompetent to be the president of the United States. No comment. What happened to your emotions when I said that? Donald Trump is a liar and a cheat, and you all need to know that. Anybody's hair stand up on the back of their neck? I'm not here to argue the point with you. What I want you to feel is that emotional response that happens. It happens when somebody we used to say, no moms, man. Don't say nothing about my mom. Whatever you want to say about me. But there's an emotional response. The hairs stand up on the back of especially a guy's head. You used to say something about his mom. Ooh, now we're going to go. All right. But what I'm going to argue is that there was a time when you could stay in your cave and not be in an argument with somebody, not be in a fight. There wasn't something inducing for you to be right and deal with. And what we've come to today is now, every day, all the time, constantly, says the guy who just spent a week off of Facebook and social media. Every day, all the time, you have got this thing in your hands and you are ready to roll. Just say something I don't agree with. Oh, by the way, this is Josh Perry. I see what you said, Josh. I'll get you. Right? There's something constantly in your face to argue with. And the way she puts it is, we've just come to a point now where we got to win. We got to win. She says, it's a neurochemical process. And when we argue and win, your brain floods with different hormones, adrenaline, dopamine, which makes you feel good. You dominate. You feel invincible. And it's a feeling any of us would want to replicate. So next time we're in a tense situation, we fight again. So we fast forward to a world where we come from being people who had to go hunt and gather and try and get our idea across, to a world where you have a fight 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the rest of the world. And we divide up in camps. Used to be, if I won an argument, maybe 20 people in my high school class knew that I won the argument. Today, if I win an argument, hundreds of people see it. My friends, their friends' friends, maybe millions of people. If I really get it right, I might be the meme of the day. You had no shot at that exposure when I was a kid, but now you do. So I can't give up. I can't let them win. Because if I lose in front of millions of people. Everybody at school knows. Not the people who happened to be in the locker room when I did the stupid thing. Everybody knows. Here's the toughest thing I think about this. And we were warned about this. I remember doing Sunday school classes and teaching in Sunday school classes and taking Sunday school classes where we talked about this postmodern idea that every truth is truth. Everybody's right. Because this is my truth. It doesn't have to be your truth. You can have your truth, Greg. It's okay. You can have it. Michigan's fine. It's fine. Just go with that. Be happy. You can have your truth. And then I can have my truth. Indiana football is awesome. I might have gotten away from the truth a little bit there, but it's my truth and I'm happy with it. Right? The predicament that we're in today, the problem that we're in today is that I can find a resource for any truth I want. If I tell you that this is an awesome mask, there's an expert out there that says this is an awesome mask. And I don't mean kind of sort of an expert. I mean a guy with a PhD, an MD, and 50 million followers. Somebody says this is good. At the same time, I can tell you that this one's even better. At the same time, with just an equally good expert, I can have somebody tell you with a PhD and an MD that there's absolutely no point in this and it's probably killing me to wear one. Am I wrong? Can I get an amen? Am I wrong? And I don't mean a kind of sort of expert. I mean an expert with research and papers and dead rats to prove it. That this is the right thing. And I don't care what your argument is, it's the same either way. And we love to be right with our pile of data. And it's killing us. The worst thing that can happen to you is you find something that you are real enthused about and you find all the information and you're probably wrong. Because you're not going to let it go. You're not going to let it go. We'll make one political comment. That's how we end up with the two fellas we got running. That's how it happened. But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not die. For God knows when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God." This is not a new thing, boys and girls. There's always been an alternate source. And we've loved having that alternate source, haven't we? From the beginning, first story, first two people. We were looking for a different source. Don't you see? Satan has us in a dogfight in the middle of the stadium, and he's just loving it as we rip and tear and torture one another. That's what's happening right here, boys and girls. Don't you see? If you eat that fruit, you won't die. God just doesn't want you to be like him. And the hair on the back of her head stood up. She went, that's right. That's probably good stuff. He just doesn't want us to be like him. Miss Glazer tells us there's a better approach. Learn to listen and cooperate. Are you crazy? I got to win this fight. Learn to listen and cooperate. She says we are completely unaware of the dampening impact that our behavior has on other people. While we're getting high on being right, we're mashing other people and we're hurting them. While I feel all good about the fact that I know that all people matter, by saying that I'm mashing somebody else. And the louder I get about it, the more I'm not listening to what they're saying. Did that one make somebody's hair stand up on the back of their head? You're diminishing the collaborative effort of everyone the longer you stand on your post about being right. She talks about the chemicals and all that, and you guys don't care about that. Just simply put, if we cooperate, there's also a set of chemicals that come from us. Oxytocin increases our ability to trust and open ourselves and share. Your goal as a leader should be to spur the production of oxytocin in yourself and others while avoiding those spikes in adrenaline and cortisol. Wait, did I come to what? Didn't we come to church? I thought we were, no. Who made you? Thank you, Mark. Let's try that again. Who made you? God made you. So when I talk about how you're made and I talk about your reaction to things and I want to talk about the chemistry of it, guess what? God's real. God made a real person that has real reactions, and there's a reason for you having those things. You're going to get adrenaline and those chemicals that give you a rush about being right, because if you didn't have them at a certain point in your life, you'd get killed by something that would eat you. But another piece of who you are is cooperation is what makes us. And we've been talking about this. I think that was that's the name of the sermon series, right? Together. We're built to be together. We're built to work together in cooperation with one another. We're clicking. We get the good chemicals. Our brain starts sending the good stuff when we start cooperating with each other and loving on each other and helping one another and listening and cooperating. Jesus said it this way. It's funny, this is how our Sunday school class went today. It's amazing. This was the Sunday school lesson and the sermon series. You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them. Their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. Whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. Whoever wishes to be first among you must be a slave to all. That's Mark 10, 42 through 44. He says to them, as he's leaving them, they will know you because you love each other. See, Jesus wasn't telling us just from a spiritual sense that this is what's best for us. But he was involved in the manufacturing process of you. And he's telling you, this is what works for you. This is how I made you. That you will serve each other and care for each other and cooperate with each other. And that's what will bring you happiness. Let's talk about how this walks out. Let's talk about some of the things we've talked about and how we walk this out a little bit. I'm going to give you a couple more hair on the back of your head comes up, let's get an argument started moments. And I'm really, really trying to make sure that I cover both sides of this space. I was going to have some people come up, but if you have people come up, then you don't know that they're going to maybe be in a cooperative mood about these topics, all right? So let's walk this listen and cooperate thing out. How does this work? Person one. I carry a handgun and I got a shotgun in my bedroom because I live where the police may not get to my house for 20 to 30 minutes. And I don't feel like it makes a whole lot of sense for me to let my wife and my kids get killed because, by the way, not nice. Because I feel like I need to defend my home. And I have the right to do that. Other hat. I don't know about your generation, but we've had school shootings since I started going to school. People just come in the building and they may kill 10, 15, 16 other kids in my class. And the only time they get to stop them is when they have to change magazines in the gun. You think you ought to be able to have 30 rounds in a gun. You're not hunting deer with 30 rounds. Why do you even have to have that? Is that really necessary? That I be tortured and scared to exist and be in that room? Now, I know people in this room on both sides of that argument. And I can feel you wanting to come up and give me your side of it. And what I wanted to give you was a little bit of both sides of it. I get it. You know how we're going to solve this? We're going to listen and cooperate. But I have the right to carry that gun. I'm going to carry it. You can't stop. It says second rule. It's like 2 rules. There's like all these amendments to the Constitution. That's number 2, baby. Number 1, I can say whatever I want to. And number 2 is so I can stop you from stopping me. All right? How about we be children of Christ and we listen with our hearts and we cooperate? Are you hearing me? Beyond whatever hair on the back of your head has stood up right now? How's come we got to get into this whole race thing again? I thought we put that down. I'm not a racist. I love people of other colors. I got family members that are people of other colors. I don't understand. I've hired black guys. I've hired women. What's your problem? Why do we got to bring this all up again? It was healing over. Leave me alone. Every time I get stopped, black 23-year-old here, every time I get stopped by a policeman, I got to make sure I got my hands at 2 and 12. I got to make sure that I don't make improper eye contact. I got to make sure that he's not had a bad day, or I'm going to end up on my face behind his car. And if if I'm lucky, I'll be alive when it's all said and done. And that's my reality, and I don't care if you believe it or not. Well, if you just didn't cop an attitude whenever you got stopped, we wouldn't have this problem. But you're ticked off from the moment you roll the window down. If I got lippy, I'd have that problem. If every day your grandpa, your dad, your uncles, your brothers, your friends at school told you about how they got done, you'd be freaked out too. You know, we don't want to talk about the fact that for most of us, I think we have one person of color in the room. For most of us, the idea of the cross and capital punishment and being hung on a tree is 2,000 years old. For black young men, it's only 40 years old. No trial, no discussion, hang them. Beat them senseless, shoot them and hang them. Not nice, I'm just telling you. If you were black, that cross is real close. So you sit down and you listen, and you cooperate, and you don't feel like you got to make your point and be right. All lives matter. No kidding. No kidding. I think we get that. I'm sorry, Amanda. Jonathan gets stopped. You have a completely different concern than you do with Cooper. Am I wrong? You sit and you listen. And you cooperate. Where does our scripture fit into this? Where does Christ's body fit into this? How do we fix it? You told me the problem. How do we fix it? How am I good to somebody without rolling over? Here's an idea. What's it cost you to roll over? What's it cost you to listen and cooperate? Both sides. When Jesus had the choice of destroying everyone in front of him and sending a band of angels down to bring him off the cross, his choice was to stay on the cross and explain to his Father that he knew they didn't know what was up. Listen and cooperate. Here's what Paul had to say. He said, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercy of God, present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of the faith that God has assigned. For as one body, we have many members. Not all of the members have the same function. So we, who are many, are one body of Christ. And individually, we are members one of another. We have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us. Prophecy in proportion of faith. Ministry in ministering the teacher. In teaching the exhorter. In exhortation. The giver in generosity. And the leader in diligence. The compassionate in cheerfulness. Let's break this down a little bit. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in one chunk. Let's break this down real quick. First, sacrifice you. Doing that is spiritual worship. Don't think too highly of yourself. Remember we talked about, this lady explained to us that when you're fighting, the chemical comes up in you and you're like, yes, and your brain is feeding you these chemicals going, this is awesome, you're winning, we're going to win. In caveman speak, you're going to get the meat and bring it back to the camp and you're going to be awesome. Okay. This is thinking too highly of yourself. And this is what Paul is talking about. So we start our conversation. I recognize that you're scared in your home and that it's going to take a while for the police to get to your home and to defend your home. I recognize, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I got to think about that for a while. You know, I think when I think about guns, I just think about people getting hurt. I don't really think about it from the perspective of you wanting to take care of your wife and your home. And I don't think about it from the perspective of maybe you're not of an age anymore where you want to come to fisticuffs with somebody, because once you do, that kind of means you lose. I get that. I got to think about that for a minute. I recognize, I hear you, man. I understand. I can't imagine sitting in a building listening to bangs going off in the hallway and knowing that people are dying and counting the shots, knowing that I've just got to wait until he runs out before somebody gets a chance to stop him from hurting people. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a little different than, I have a right to do this. You won't stop me because it says number 2 on the list. I can do it. When? Are you getting the difference here? I hear you when you tell me that the reason why maybe your people are living, so many of them, in the neighborhoods that they're living in is because until just 30 years ago, they couldn't get a mortgage to get a house or get a job. And now you can get all those things. And I want to explain to you that you have, I can't think of it, equal opportunity in the employment office, and I have to give you a loan, and you have all these, and if you apply to my college, I have to let you in. See, isn't that all awesome? I get that that's what people think, but I'm hearing you. I hear what you're saying. I started at step 7 and you started at step 1. And now I'm making fun of you because I'm winning the race. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. How can we work together to bring the pendulum back in order? That's who we should be, people. Are you hearing me? This is who we should be. This is what God has asked us to do. To listen and cooperate. That's what Jesus is essentially saying in 10:42 through 44, as he says, you need to be a servant to these people. You need to be a servant to the person you're listening to. Number 2, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God. You're never going to change your mind if the only people you listen to are the people who are saying what you say. And I'm here to tell you that Google and Facebook, isn't it weird that progressive Democrat person over here is only seeing how awful Donald Trump is and how awful the conservatives are and how awful these things are. And isn't it weird that the same person on the same app is over here conservative, is hearing nothing but how incompetent Joe Biden is and how awful Kamala Harris is because she said this here and then she said that there. How can those be the same resource? Well, here's how they can be the same resource. Because if you want to hear what you believe. You want to hear that over and over and over again. So they're selling soap. They want you to look at their app. What are they going to show you? What you believe. Guy did a study about Facebook and social media, and he spent a whole week, or not, it wasn't a month. It wasn't a week, it was a month. He spent a whole month, and over and over and over and over again on Google, he kept looking up gardening things. How do you garden this, and how do you garden that, and how do you do this, and how do you do that, and about gardening, and how you plant tomatoes, and how you get corn to grow, and how you get all these different things. And he looked at nothing else but that. Guess what he saw on Facebook? Gardening. That's all he saw. He'd go to Google, gardening, Instagram, gardening. Guess what? Your phone's keeping track of you. I know this is a shock. But why is it only giving me those facts? Because it's what you want. Its job is not to provide you information. Its job is to make you look at it. This thing's job is not to give you information. Newsflash, this is not an information machine. This is a sell you soap machine. Why does the weatherman tell you it's going to snow 16 inches when it's probably going to snow 3? He starts telling you a week before that it's going to snow 16 inches. Well, he starts with 6. And then tomorrow it's 12. And then the day after that it's 16. And then the night before it's 24. And then 15 minutes before it happens, it's probably going to be 3. Why? Anybody got an idea why? Commercials. They ain't selling you information about the snow. They're selling you Tide Extra Clean. I'm not kidding. It's what's happening. Why is a lawyer going to take your case for free? Because he gets money if you win. He's not doing it because he's a swell guy. Because he was in an accident himself. He rides motorcycles, so he knows. Get him to do it for free. Tell me about it. If his heart's so broken for me on my motorcycle, get him to do it for free. Don't be conformed to the way of this world. You be Jesus. You listen to that idiot telling you about how awesome Donald Trump is. Wait a minute. Take the idiot part off. They know why they feel that way. Listen to them tell you why they're scared to sit in a classroom when they know that someone could be standing in the hallway with 30 rounds of ammunition in their semi-automatic weapon. AR doesn't stand for assault rifle. I said it. Oh, come on, there's gun people in the room. Please help me. I'm being silly. All right. My point is, listen to what they're saying. Hear them. Understand that what they hear coming from that candidate or that candidate scares them at their deepest level. They have an actual reason. They honestly believe it. They're not just being a jerk. No, I said not just being a jerk. They might be being a jerk, but they're not just being a jerk. They have a reason for feeling what they feel. Understand that. Number 3. For as in one body, one body, we have many members. And not all of the members have the same function. So we, who are many, are one body in Christ. And individually, we are members one of another. Mark, we are one together. if I was a black, anti-gun, progressive with a do-rag on my head, we are one. You hear me? If I was a white motorcycle chick in a leather jacket with her sunglasses on her head, we are one. I'm not pointing at anybody in particular. Do you hear me? Who is not a child of God? Point to them. Okay, we're all one then. My point is this. Do I expect the world to change for us? No. I expect us to change them. Our short version of our mission statement at Southside Church of the Nazarene is to equip world changers. I have equipped you today. If you wanted to, if you were listening, I equipped you today. And what I equipped you to do was, somebody said it, listen. Listen and cooperate. Tell those bad chemicals when you start down through that argument with that idiot brother-in-law of yours, go sit down and we're listening this time. This time we're going to listen. Ooh, I can't believe he said that again. Oh, my word. I will give the postmoderns, the camera guy's loving me right now. I will give, hi e-gathering guys. I will give the postmoderns this. Mug's truth is Mug's truth. My truth is my truth. It doesn't mean it's the truth, and it doesn't have to be. But we do have to listen to each other, especially if he's telling me how to frame a house. We have to listen to each other with our hackles down. And I'm going to ask you to, honestly, I'm going to give you some skills here. I'm going to ask you to do something with me, okay? Honestly. I started doing this in meetings. If you see me in a meeting, please don't, and I do this, please know I'm not trying to be mean to you. I've started in some meetings where I feel my hackles coming up. I can just feel it. Ooh, John boy, I'm ready. I got the facts. I'm going to put it on them. Here we go. Get ready. What I've started doing is listen, listen, listen. This literally is what I do. I've been known to do this too. And what I'm doing is I'm changing my posture. We talked about in Sunday school one time, your physical self can bring your spiritual self into alignment. Take a second and breathe and actually hear the words coming out of their mouth. This is going to be hard because right after the word Biden or Trump, it gets real hard. Things start shutting down. You hear gun control and you go, what is that? I'm ready to go. Okay. Stop and listen. Even to that fool on stage who's making weird noises. Stop and listen. And I want you to start doing the math as they're speaking about how you too can cooperate through this thing. You may stand up and completely disagree still. That's possible. But what you can do with someone you've listened to is you can love them. Because you can understand. You can listen to what they're saying. And you can understand why they feel that way. You can understand. Maybe why a black young man sitting in a car seat could be keyed up and freaked out and behave the way that they behave in a moment. You can understand if you listen to the police officer why he might go off the way he would go off. Did I say that either of them were right? I said they're human beings and we are one. We are all part of this together if we'll listen and cooperate. The big idea today is when we divide our generation by generation, color, politics, we partner with the great divider who is Satan. When we partner together as the body of Christ, then we will obtain the fullness of God's glory. From the beginning, as I think Pastor Jan spoke to, Pastor Neil spoke to, as I've spoken to as we've gone through these series, it was not good that we would be alone. It's not good that we separate. It's not good that we fight. It's when we listen and cooperate that this all works.